This is Ames Gross, President of Pacific Bridge Medical. I'm sorry we're having some technical difficulties for some people to see the presentation today. So if there's any way you could print out the presentation, we'd appreciate that. And the company that's offering the web services is trying to figure out what the problem is. Anyway, we were going to have a question and answer period at the end, and hopefully we'll get the picture, the visual picture in for people that are not on the site right now. Okay, I want to introduce our speakers. We have two speakers. One is Han, one is Ellen, both from our Taiwanese office, and they have quite a bit of experience in the regulatory area. And Han, why don't you start the webcast now?
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Han, and I am here with Ellen. Now, we will be presenting the Taiwan Medical Device Regulatory Environment presentation. I'll be doing the first half, while Ellen will be doing the case studies, and she'll be doing the Q&A as well. So let us go ahead. So let's go to the first slide. Over here, you have basically a demographics map of Taiwan, and most of the political and financial hub are basically concentrated in the Taipei and in the northern area. That goes the same with the medical market. So basically, as you move down south, you get to the central area. It's basically known for its weather. It has the smallest gap between wealthy and poor, and also it's known for its mafia, the crime syndicate. So when I went on a business trip once, my girlfriend warned me not to turn the music too loud. And nothing happened to me. I like to think it was because of my tough looks, but it's probably because I was driving the Toyota Yaris. So as we move down to the south, the southern region is the second largest market in Taiwan. Its main economic income is the harbor and industrial capacity. Its medical market is pretty big too. It's the second largest as well. So as we move to the eastern region, eastern area, it's separated. The whole island nation is separated by a mountain range. So the eastern nation is pretty much cut off, but it's known for its tourism and scenic views, and it has a lot of Taiwanese Aboriginal populations there. Basically, the medical market there is the smallest, but one thing to note is that it's the quickest and fastest growing area in the country. Another interesting thing about the eastern region is that because of all the Aboriginal population, there's actually certain laws in the area basically saying that if your medical company can prove that your owner is of Aboriginal descent, the medical company will get priority when it comes to annual hospital biddings. So that's pretty interesting over there. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide.
Yeah, Han, are you speaking into the phone? Because it's a little hard to hear you.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's look at slide 2. So this is basically an overview of Taiwan. Taiwan, the size is roughly the size of Virginia, while the population is pretty much the same as Texas. One thing to note is that the population, almost everybody is covered by the national health insurance, so that's a lot of people. The jobless rate is lower than 5%, so that's pretty low compared to the rest of the world. But like the rest of the world, people here still complain a lot. All right, so let's move on to slide 3. Basically the total number of deaths and the leading causes of death hasn't changed that much since 2007. The main cause of death in Taiwan is cancer. One reason for that, there are a few reasons actually. One is because it's sort of a taboo to get your full body checkup for the elderly population. It's sort of viewed as bad karma, or kind of like a curse if you think there's something wrong with you and you go get it checked up, and you sort of curse yourself if you actually do. So that's one reason people delay their checkups. A second reason is because a huge population rate, about 50% of the population actually smokes cigarettes, and that causes lung cancer. And that's due to so many people smoke is due to because the long working hours and the stress it causes. And another reason is because basically when, especially the elderly population, when they find out that they have cancer or a life-threatening ailment, basically they will go with traditional or superstitious treatments regarding such things as cancer, and this causes premature death. So that's a few of the reasons for that. Okay, so next slide. This is pretty interesting in that Taiwan, like a few other developed nations are experiencing an aging society issue, and that's basically the older population is the baby boomers are basically retiring, while fewer and fewer younger couples are having kids. And basically, at this rate, Taiwan by 2025 will become a super age society, and the labor population will be put on strain while it's trying to support the older population. Taiwan actually, as of last year, has become the country with the lowest birth rate, basically equaling out to 0.9 child per every female. And so that's a big problem that the government is trying to face right now. And when it comes to the medical market, it's actually a big element where everybody should look into as into how they're going to strategize in marketing and promotion, what kind of product that will sell based on this fact. Okay? And also as you can see here, as of now, or as of 2010, the elderly population consumes up to 1/3 of the healthcare resource, so that's a lot. All right? So slide 5. So basically the National Health Act, the details are here, so I'm not going to read it for you, but basically you can see that the premium is adjusted approximately every 2 years to basically catch up with the times. But the national health insurance is still going broke. So the second generation national health insurance is being implemented, and it will be put into force actually July of this year, so in a few months. Okay? So, all right, next slide. So today, as you can see in Taiwan, medical device and cosmetics are categorized in the same category. We will be concentrating on medical device. So let's go ahead. Slide 7. Taiwan, before with Taiwan TFDA's Pharmaceutical Affair Act, it actually regulates both pharmaceutical and device within the same regulation, and that actually causes a lot of problems because the device and pharmaceuticals are quite different in that device actually has a shorter product life cycle, and also medical device has basically a longer theoretical and technical learning curve for the doctors. So for a long time, the device companies have tried to fight this rule, but nothing happened basically. All right, so slide 8, please. So as of 2010, 2 years ago, basically the health insurance, they noticed that basically they were going broke, and so they decided to revise the whole system. And they also noticed that many people that was under the insurance were paying extra for self-pay products, and they thought that was unfair. So in their good intention, they decided that, well, since everybody's paying for health insurance, why should somebody pay extra to get better stuff? And so they sort of, in a way, illegalized self-pay products. So in the 2 years ago, in 2010, many of the device companies saw basically a huge drop in their sales all across the whole market. So basically in Taiwan, the pharmaceutical markets, companies has always been quite united. They would lobby together, and they would have the monthly meetings and such. But on the contrary, the medical device companies has sort of been a loose band of federation. And but as of 2010, because of the DRG stands for Diagnostic Related Groups. Okay, so as of 2010, because of DRG, all the medical device company, international and local companies, for the first time got together, and they started having meetings. They started lobbying. They hired PR companies to try to push for what they stood for. And for the first time, because of that, PFDA and also the National Health Insurance Bureau, NHIB, finally understood what the device companies were trying to say. So last year, 2011, a separate article basically proposed that device and pharmaceuticals should be regulated under different rules. So that was a big step for us here in Taiwan. All right, next slide. All right, so 2012, this year, basically, one thing to remember is that during the DRG, because the whole self-pay system was sort of semi-legal, so what happened quite a lot was that a patient would go to a doctor and he would get self-pay products, right? And after the surgery is done, after he got his implant, he would turn around and sue the hospital and the distributor because he didn't want to pay the product. And because during the DRG it was semi-legal, so a lot of times the hospitals would lose and the patients would win, so that was a big problem. So this year, the balance billing basically made self-paid products legal. So now, for the first time, we could have insured and self-paid products without worrying being caught. So basically, for self-paid products, the patients have to pay the extra cost that's not reimbursed. And on top of that, a lot of the population, Taiwanese people here, basically have private insurance, so that covers a lot of the cost that's not reimbursed. So in the end, the patient basically ends up paying a lot less. All right?
Han, so just speak just speak a little slower, please.
Oh, slower. Okay. Yep. Actually, because we've practiced a few times and we have a lot to say, so I'm trying to, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right, looking at slide 10. We basically, here is the classification by TFDA. You can see it's pretty much identical to FDA. But one thing you have to remember is that if the product is not approved by TFDA, then it's PMA, even if the product has an SE and FDA substantially equivalent. So if the TA doesn't approve it, then it's PMA. All right. So and second here, you see the combination device. Either if you have a combination device, what categorize it as device with drug is basically its primary function. So as an example, like bone graft with antibiotics, so it's mainly an implant, so that would be ruled as a device. A second example, we would have, for example, drug-eluting stent system. So that's basically like a catheter, so that would be ruled as device too. So primary function. Okay. All right, next slide, 11. All right, so in Taiwan, basically you need to apply for the QSD and then product registration. QSD is the quality system documentation. What we have experienced in the past is that a lot of foreign companies, they will say, well, they have ISO, why should they apply for QSD? Well, basically QSD is our Taiwanese regulations. So even if you have ISO, you still will have to apply for QSD. Okay, and basically product registration. Now, the time frame for QSD application is about 6 months, and then product registration is another 6 months. You need QSD first to get product registration, but 6 months plus 6 months, that's 1 year, and that's a long time. So actually, if you are quite confident enough and if you're careful enough in submitting your QSD, you can actually submit both your QSD and product registration at the same time. Okay? So third point here, you have basically QSDs could be registered simultaneously by different distributors. So example, if a foreign manufacturer comes to Taiwan, but he decides that he's not going to give exclusive distributorship to one distributor. He's going to have different distributors either by product or by region. These distributors can actually register at the same time, same product. Okay. All right, next slide. So over here we have basically the things that you need for Class 1, 2, 3, and PMA. Now, it's pretty much self-explanatory. For Class 1, a QSD is required if your device is sterile or has a metrological function, meaning that if it has a measuring function. Now, please note that there's a new regulation saying that ADR, adverse event reporting, and also recall procedures should be available upon request if needed for Class 1 medical device, for Class 1. And this new regulation came about because basically some of the locally made products are not of the not of the quality, and so it's sort of to prevent anything from happening. And this is actually pretty good news for international brands because this regulation basically eliminates a lot of the local small to medium scale manufacturers. Okay, and basically Class 2, 3, and PMA, all of these classes need both QSD and registration. Okay, so slide 13. So basically here are the things for your QSD application, basically your certification, QSD, or you can have CFG, which is Certificate of Foreign Government, plus EIR, which is Establishment Inspection Report, or you can have Audit Report Plus FSC, which stands for Foreign Sales Certificate. Okay. All right. Next slide. So over here we have basically a pyramid that shows the confidentiality of documentations within a corporation or within a company. Level 4 being the most confidential. A lot of times the things that we ask for manufacturers to supply us for QST application, a lot of times they will refuse, or they'll be confused saying that, well, these things are confidential. But basically for the TFDA, they are only asking the how and the why the system works. So basically for them, these are not intruding upon confidentiality, because most of the documentation they're asking for is only of level 1 and 2. So basically they're not prying on any specifications on any particular product. Okay? So let's move on to QST application. So there's 3 ways for application modes. One is standard. Second is simplify mode. And the third is site inspection. Now, simplify mode is if the manufacturer or the factory is in the U.S. or in the EU region. So everywhere else in the world has to go through standard mode. So basically, if your factory is in China, or if your factory is in Australia, you have to go through the standard mode. Now, basically, these 2 would be your choices. Site inspection it's basically never happened except for a couple cases in our history. Why that is because, first of all, it's very expensive. It costs about $300,000 US. And this happens. A company can go for site inspection if they feel that the document they are being asked are too confidential and they are unwilling to give it up. And second is that if they have no documents that are either English or Chinese to provide. Okay, so like I said, from in our history, we've only experienced a couple U.S. companies that actually went with site inspection, and afterwards they basically decided that simplify mode was much, much easier, and which is pretty much true. Okay, all right, let's go to slide 16. So here are basically the documents that you need for standard mode. It's pretty much self-explanatory, so I'm not going to read it. But one thing you should note is that quality manual and quality procedures should both be signed, dated, and they should all be in the latest version. Okay. Now these documents are all acceptable in both English and Chinese. All right. Traditional Chinese. So next slide. So we're looking at simplified module for the U.S. Pretty much same thing. These are the list of things that you need. One thing you need to remember is that the ISO certificate, you don't need to send in the original. A copy will be fine. Okay? And same thing. All of these documents should either be English or Chinese. Okay? Next slide. Slide 18. So this is simplified module for EU. Now, one thing you should note is that the notified body should be a recognized TCP member by the DOH. Okay, so that's a technical cooperating program. Basically, which notified bodies are basically recognized by DOH? Next slide. So here in slide 19, you see all the notified bodies that's recognized for the EU region in Taiwan. But remember, though, for example, you see here SGS bracket UK. You might say that, okay, well, I have SGS bracket US, so that should be okay. But that's not. It's very strict. So since you don't see SGS bracket US on this list, it's not accepted, even though it's of basically the same main company. Okay, so it has to be on the list. Now remember also, KEMA has been merged. It's known as DECRA now. All right. So next slide, slide 20. This is pretty self-explanatory. So as of last year, these are basically the percentages and the number of QST approved. And you can see that U.S.-made products is basically tops the chart, is one of the main applicants. But you should see that in third place, China, which makes up about 11% of QST approvals. This is quite interesting because the Ministry of Economic Affairs actually blockaded all products made in China. It's basically banned, so it will not get through customs. So then you might ask yourself, then how did these 11% get here? Now, it's not all Chinese-made products are banned, but most of them are banned. So I will explain to you how these came about. Let's look at the next slide. So basically over here you see that to the left side you have DOH, Department of Health, and under them you see TFDA and NHI. To the right side you see Ministry of Economic Affairs. Under them is BOFT, which is Bureau of Foreign Trade, and then under them is Customs. And basically what you have here is two different structures, two different systems that doesn't recognize each other. So basically MOEA says that, okay, we are not going to import anything from China. But then DOH still basically gives out certifications to Chinese-made products. So what happened before was that manufacturer, they went and got certification from DOH, and then so they go ahead and imported the product into Taiwanese harbor, but then it gets stuck there. The customs basically do not let the product in. Now, how do you get around this system is that basically you need to apply with CCC code to the BOFT, and then afterwards you go to DOH. Okay? So basically what you have here, the two different systems, is kind of like in a Hollywood movie where there's a murder, and then the FBI comes in and the local police is trying to, they don't basically get along. It's kind of like that. Okay? All right, next slide. All right, this pretty much basically, as you see, is product approved. And over here you'll see that for Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 U.S.-made products basically tops the chart. But you'll notice that for Class 1 and 2, Taiwanese local-made products are second place. So it's actually a big, Taiwanese local companies are a big competitor in these two classes. So that's one thing we have to notice. Okay? And this is from last year. All right, so next slide, 23. So how does TFDA categorize these classifications? So over here you see that FDA regulation numbers are what we call the 3 digits, right? So for example, for ENT you might have 874111. Maybe for a dental device you might have 872111, and so on and so forth. What TFDA did was that they took the first 3 digits and they turned them into alphabets. So, for example, what was known in the FDA as 874111 in TFDA, it will be known as G111. Okay? All right? So let's see next slide, 24. So what happens if your device is unclassified by TFDA and FDA? Well, if both TFDA and FDA rule the device as unclassified, then it's completely up to the applicant. The applicant has to go and search for an SE in the TFDA approved database. Okay, but if the applicant still cannot find an SE in the TFDA database, then what happens is that they basically have to rule this as a Class 2 or 3 new device. Now, there's been a typo. It should be Class 2 and 3 new device. Okay? All right, so slide 25. Basically, registration for Class 1 products is very, very simple, so not going to spend too much time here. Especially, it's very easy if you got surgical instruments or power instruments. Now, one thing to note here in the bottom you see is that if you want a specific brand name for your product, then you have to go through the standard registration process, meaning that if you, for example, have a minimal invasive lumbar retractor, okay, but instead you want to call it something elegant like the Phantom, right? So now you want to use the brand name Phantom instead, so then you will have to go through the standard registration process, okay? And along with the IFU, instruction for use, brochures, and all these other thingies, okay? So next slide, 26. So for Class 2 and 3 products, it's pretty much here, the things that you need. So, like I said, I'm not going to read it. But you should know that for Class 2, if you can provide the CFG by both EU and US, then preclinical can be waived. So if you have CFG by both EU and US, no preclinical test reports. Okay. For Class 3 products, actually, even if you have CFG, if you have it or not, it doesn't matter. You have to provide all of these documents. Okay. All right. Slide 27. Now, for PMA products, it's the same as Class 3, except you also need to provide a 2-year clinical safety studies, at least 2 years, okay? All right, along with everything else here. Now, next slide. We're looking at slide 28. So, of course, we all know that different regions and different countries have different classifications. So, some products might be classified as device in EU, but it will be ruled as OTC in the US. So, for example, dental bleach is ruled as device in US. In Taiwan, it's known as cosmetic. Okay, fluoride, Taiwanese regulation is only about 1,600 ppm, and so basically anything more would either be ruled as pharmaceutical or it would just be rejected outright. Another example, dental curing light. It's basically used to speed up material curing. It has an accessory. It's basically a radiometer. Now, the TFDA has ruled basically the radiometer as a non-device. So what happens if you import in this dental curing light and at the customs they say, hey, this radiometer doesn't have a certificate? What you can do is you can take the notice from TFDA saying that it's a non-device, and that should suffice. Okay, so same thing if you have an annual contract bid with a Taiwanese hospital and they see the dental curing light, but then they see the radiometer and they say, hey, where's the certificate for this? Then all you need to do is provide the notice by TFDA saying that it's a non-device, and you'll be good. All right? Okay, so next slide, please. Over here you have the registration process, self-explanatory. You turn in your application to TFDA, 90 days. They'll give you a notice for deficiency. Now, basically you should know that TFDA will basically return your application basically 95% of the times. They will always return it. They will find something wrong with it. It's kind of like their standard procedure. So sometimes you can make their job easier by basically leaving something for them to find and then turn it in for a second time. And after you turn it in to answer their deficiency, it takes about 90 days, and either your application will be approved or rejected. If it's rejected, then you got 120 days for appeal. Okay. Sorry, I missed the part where the notice for deficiency, and then you have to wait 90 plus 30 days to get the deficiency answered. Okay. Next slide. So we are looking at PMA submissions. It's basically exactly the same as submission for Class 2 and 3, except you'll notice that in the middle, before the registration is approved or rejected, before that there's a committee review. Now, you'll see that it takes about 90 to 120 days for the committee review, and why that is, why there's such a dramatic difference in date is that because if your submission goes into the committee review and they can't rule for the first committee review, they can't decide what classification it goes into, they will go to a second committee review. If they don't have a result, they will go to a third committee review and so on and so forth. So it's actually really there's not a fixed time for that. So it could drag on for a really long time. All right. Next slide, 21. So here are basically the government fees. They are in U.S. dollar. Now, you have to remember the price may vary due to basically in fluctuating exchange rate. Now, we basically calculated this at about $1 to 26 new Taiwanese dollar, but actually, as of now, it's about $1 to 29 Taiwanese dollar. Okay. All right. Next slide. So slide 32, here's basically the time frame for the registration. As mentioned before, if you are confident enough in your QSD registration, you can actually apply your QSD and product registration at the same time. Okay, so it will save you 6 months. All right. Okay. Next slide. So for renewal, QSD are basically valid for 3 years. Product license renewals, product license are valid for 5 years. Basically here are the documents that's required. One thing you should know is that the FDA will send you a notice for expiration sometime. Okay, sometimes, but not all the time. So actually, what we do is that we usually begin renewal registration 6 months prior to expiration. Okay. So next slide, 34. So when are clinical trials needed? Well, usually for most other products, a paper review should be sufficient, except contact lenses. Now, what that is because contact lenses are OTC-free products or free OTC products. So basically, the patient can just go and pick it up. So safety has to be regulated before any purchasing, and so they basically regulate this area really strictly. But actually, in the about the past 2 years, this regulation has loosened up. So now, if you can provide material SE, then you'll be okay. All right, making things a lot easier. All right, next slide. Country of origin, COO. I'll spend a little bit longer here because this takes a lot to get through. Because now TFDA is different from FDA in that the FDA actually only recognizes actual manufacturer instead of legal manufacturer. Now we all know that maybe a manufacturer might OEM different parts to different manufacturers, and so to make things easier, they should recognize the legal manufacturer instead, but not TFDA. Okay, TFDA only recognizes the actual manufacturer. Okay, so we actually would spend a lot of time trying to convey this point to our client, but sometimes they just don't understand, they don't listen, but that's just how it is in Taiwan. Actual manufacturer. So now that's true except for the Mexicali Free Trade Zone. Now this only happened about 2 years ago. So basically, products that's made in the Mexicali Free Trade Zone is okay by the TFDA. So what you will have is a product that's shipped from the U.S. It will on the label, it will show a U.S. manufacturer. It will have a U.S. address. It will say made in Mexico. And this issue is fine with TFDA. So there are 3 things I want to talk about regarding this topic. One is legal rights. Okay. Now I'm going to give you an example. So for example, a legal manufacturer, he might OEM a product to a second factory. Now this factory might produce a similar product. Okay. So when the legal manufacturer, when they register, of course they want to use their own name, but TFDA only recognizes actual manufacturers, so it doesn't matter what, they still have to register by using the actual factory that produced the product. And we've had experience where we spent 2 years trying to convince our client that that's how it goes. There's no other way around it. Okay. Another thing is LOA, letter of authorization. So for another example, for the Mexicali Free Trade Zone, what we would have is that the actual factory is in Mexico. So, but it doesn't matter to the TFDA. TFDA will want to see a letter of authorization signed and stamped by the actual manufacturer. And we will have the U.S. company coming back to us and saying that, hey, well, we don't have anybody there. It's all Mexican workers. They can't even speak English. And the only supervisor we have, goes across the border weekly and come back. And so we don't have anybody there. We don't even have a letterhead. But honestly, this issue, there's nothing we can do except, apologize and say that, well, that's just how it goes. TFDA only recognizes actual manufacturer. So, but in the end, our client did come up with basically a letterhead, and and so forth. So you just have to make it up as you go, kind of. Okay, and then another thing is agreement. So since the FDA only recognizes actual manufacture, but a lot of the promotional materials would be under the name of the legal manufacturer. So the TFDA will want to see an agreement between the legal manufacturer and the actual manufacturer. But an issue comes where sometimes the actual manufacturer is only a division of the legal manufacturer, or maybe a sister company. So there is no agreement between them. But again, TFDA doesn't care. We have to see something. So this is literally where you have to pull something out of your ass, so to make it all come around. So yeah. So just, I know a lot of times this people just don't understand and don't believe it, but that's just how it goes. Okay. All right. Next slide. So slide 36. Device classifications varies a lot from EU, US to Taiwan. So I'm going to be using, and later on Ellen will be talking about by using dental classification device as an example, because there's a huge demand in the RA field and the dental device market right now in Taiwan. So as you can see where I circled in red, a device might be ruled as Class 2 by FDA. It will be seen as Class 1 by EU. All right, next slide. So over here, another example that has different classifications. But what you need to know is that FDA has downgraded implants as Class 2, dental implants as Class 2, but the FDA still classifies it as Class 3, and that has a lot of political reasons behind that. It's basically used to protect Taiwanese local manufacturers. So that's another thing to remember. Taiwanese, the FDA still rules as Class 3. Okay. So later on, Ellen will be using impression material as a case study, and she'll be talking more in detail. All right. So next slide, please. So basically, how does the reimbursement system work? Now, every new product has to apply for reimbursement, no matter what. So even if it doesn't, in the end, doesn't become a reimbursed product, or the company never had the intention of registering the product as reimbursed, it doesn't matter. Then every new product into Taiwan has to go through the reimbursement application process first. Okay, and these are basically the things you need to supply. You need to supply a reimbursement code, amount, and price of the product in other countries, so on and so forth. Now, another thing you need to know is that a lot of local manufacturers, what they will do is that they will register their product into the reimbursement rate. Now, the reimbursement, as we know, has really bad price. It's really, really cheap. Okay, so a lot of times only the local Taiwanese manufacturers can afford the cost and still make a profit by submitting their product into the reimbursement system. And by doing this, they kick out international competitors. Okay, so intentionally, a lot of times, local Taiwanese companies will register the product. Okay, so next slide, 39. So after you submit your reimbursement, submit your product for reimbursement, either it gets approved or it gets not approved. Now, it might get not approved most likely because there's no agreement on the price. The proposed price was not approved. Now, what happens after that is NHIB, National Health Insurance Bureau, will propose further negotiation, but usually the price is just, the gap is just too big, and the distributor will just give up. Okay? All right, next slide. Now, like I said, reimbursement in Taiwan, and I'm pretty sure across the world, is really stingy. Okay, so it's terrible. The pricing is terrible. Now, NHIB and all their goodwill, they devise the PVS, which is the price volume survey. And what it does is that they wanted to make sure that the reimbursement price is actually the same as the actual selling price for hospitals. But this causes a problem. So, for example, for a device, the National Health Insurance will say to the hospital, hey, we will reimburse you $100 for this device. Now, the hospitals turn around, they go to the distributor or the dealer saying that, hey, look, I'm only getting paid $100 for this device, or I'm only getting reimbursed $100 for this device. I want to make $1. I want to make a profit. So you, the dealer, have to sell me the device for $90. Okay? Now, the dealer, most of the times, will say yes because they have to do so in order to sign basically an annual contract deal with the hospital. Okay, so time goes around, and then the next PVS comes around. They see that, the hospital's only paying $90 for this product. Okay, so then they will say, hey, we'll reimburse you for $90 for this product. And then the hospital turns around to the distributor and say, hey, look, now we're only getting reimbursed for $90. You have to give it to me for $80. And so on and so forth. And then basically at the end, what happens a lot of times is that dealers or distributors will just give up and quit because there's no more money to be made. So there's sort of a joke that goes around here saying that Taiwan insurance will become the best in the world because basically it will be completely free. There'll be nothing left to pay. Okay? All right, next slide, please. So basically, this is a summary of current issues with the TFDA. Now, I know a lot of things that I said earlier might be confusing or just doesn't make any sense for many of you, such as the actual manufacturer and the legal manufacturer issue, this DOO issue, country of origin issue, basically trying to simplify the post-market safety surveillance or lifting Chinese-made products or the PVS issue. Now, all of these issues actually has been brought up to TFDA, and they know these problems. They see these problems, but nothing has been done yet, okay? But at least we can be sure that they know that these issues exist, and hopefully they're doing something about it, okay? All right, next slide. So what are the tips and best ways to work with the FDA? It's basically self-explanatory. So like be precise on the Chinese translation. So don't use Google Translation. Okay, so that's very terrible. One of my friends actually got Chinese tattoo on his arms. He's not Chinese, and he used Google Translate, and that tattoo doesn't make any sense. So it goes the same. Don't use Google Translate. So make sure your Chinese translation is exactly precise. Also, and do the homework for the reviewer, meaning that if you think certain data is important for the reviewer, highlight it or circle it so they can see it right away. Also, for relative factual information or references, you can link it for them so they can find it really quickly. Okay, and of course, enough product knowledge goes a long way. Basically, if the reviewer has a problem and calls you, you can show them your professionalism by knowing your product. And by doing this, you can convince the reviewer into the path that you want the registration to go. Be reasonable and negotiable, of course. Be polite, right? And be trustworthy. It's a very small field, especially in Taiwan, the RA field. So basically, your reputation goes around really fast. So if you're an honest, trustworthy, efficient, professional person, then people will come to you in a way. All right? So right now, next slide, we'll see that it's a case study, and I will be passing the mic on to Ellen. All right? And after Ellen, if we have enough time, I will finish off by talking about the culture. If we don't, then we'll just skip that part. All right? Here's Ellen.
Okay, thank you, Han. So now the case study. Now let's start with the full documentation first. Now, please always be reminded that the documents should be provided in English. Although by law, the translation of Chinese is acceptable here, I would still prefer everything in English. And the reason is just in case your counterparts in other countries require the same data, then we will be able to share it with them. Okay, it's very important. Now, we also need to provide the complete test reports. And for this one, I do have an experience like when a company does not have such test reports available, and then during the registration in other countries, such as in Korea, and they get a test done there. And then during the registration in Taiwan, when I also need the same test reports, I got the test report in Korean, which is, of course, not acceptable, okay? I know that in Taiwan, all the testing labs are capable of conducting the test by following the international requirements and by providing the reports in English. All you have to do is to ask for it in the beginning, okay? It's very, very important in terms of time and money saving. And then it's the consistency issue. Now, as you might have noticed, that the only document during the registration process that require legalization by the Taipei Trade Office is the free sale certificate, which refers to the certificate to foreign government, the CFG, for the American companies. So you can imagine how important this certificate is. Everything goes from the certificate. Now, if there is any discrepancy among the documents and the certificate in terms of the company name, address, the product name, the product code, etc., please find a way to fix the document because the certificate, the CFG, does not accommodate. Okay? It's very, very important. Now, next slide. Okay, now, we will talk about before we talk about the complete test report, I sort of divide the device into three types.
Yeah, Ellen, can you speak a little louder into the phone, please?
Oh, okay.
That's better.
Is it better now?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I basically divided the device into three types. The first one is the consuming material, such as dressings, dental materials, or electrodes, etc. And then the implant type. And then the last one is the equipment type. Now, for all the device or any part of the device that is in contact with the patient, and then the biocompatibility testings are required per ISO 10993 standard. Okay? There are two materials that such testing can be waived. They are the titanium and stainless steel.
Okay, hold on for a second. I think I know what's wrong with the microphone. Give me about 10 seconds. Hold on.
Okay. No, really? Oh, okay. Is it better now? Hello?
Yeah, it's not as good as it was, actually.
Okay, okay. No. How about it?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, okay. And then besides this biocompatibility testing, there are also testings to be done by following the international standards. Like for materials, the in-house testing per the international standards should be conducted, which can also be referred to as the functional testing. Now, for dental implants, the mechanical testings per international standards such as ASTM or ISO should be followed. And this kind of testing can also be referred as functional testing, okay? And then for equipment, basically IEC reports should be provided. And then for electrical equipment, IEC 60601 reports should be provided. And the main two reports in terms of general product safety and the emission is vital no matter what. And then additional IEC reports should also be provided depending on the equipment type, such as for X-rays, the IEC test reports of the radiation should also be provided for clearance. Okay? And then for all the sterile packs, a sterilization validation report along with a certificate of the most recent batch, which shows the product for registration, should also be provided. Now, if the equipment is operated by using a software, the in-house software validation report should be provided upon request. Now, here comes the functional test reports. As mentioned before, for materials, the in-house testing by following the international standards can be referred to as the functional test reports. And then the mechanical testing for implants can be considered the functional test reports as well. Now, for equipment, in-house testing, according to the product specification that you claim, should also be provided, such as the wavelength for lasers and the frequency for RF equipment, and then input, output, power, etc. for the electric equipment should be provided. Now, the last test will be the final inspection. It's actually the quality control inspection for the finished product before it goes to the warehouse. It's basically the inspection by visual check of the appearance or the package, whether it's intact. It's really a easy inspection. However, the TFDA expects to see not just the test reports. You also need to provide the test procedures, the specifications, the acceptable range, and the raw data, etc. There are times the company will just provide a piece of QC form with the test result of whether it passed or failed. It's, of course, not sufficient. Okay, always provide the complete test report. Okay, next page. Now, let's do the case study for Class 2 registration when the device classification is different. We will take dental impression material as an example. Now, it is a Class 2 by the FDA and Class 1 by the EU. And we all know that the notified body does not inspect the Class 1 devices. Therefore, they will not issue a free sale statement for us. Now, if this is the case, well, this is definitely the case. Then let's see if you could get a free sale certificate from the EU member countries through your representative office there, because this kind of certificate is also acceptable. Now, just for your information, Switzerland and Liechtenstein are not EU members. So please do not get certificate from those two countries. Okay? So if either a free sale statement or a free sale certificate is not possible, then we have to provide the full document, which includes the biocompatibility test report and then the final inspection report. The problem with the biocompatibility test report is the kind of test is usually done before the product is commercialized. So at the time of the testing, the product may not be named, okay? And then it might be just referred to, say, dental material lot number so and so, which would be very difficult for us to link it to the product registration in Taiwan.
Okay, Ellen, I think we need to pick it up a little on the pace. little quicker.
Okay. Now, there are also times that the test articles will be like for product A, and then it's the same product, but we are registered as product B in Taiwan. They basically are under the same product, just using the different product names to distinguish the market. In this case, see if you are able to put down in the CFG that product A is also known as product B, so we will be able to link it. Okay? Now, for final inspection, because we are looking for the final inspection for the finished product. So the TFDA will expect to see the inspection for the product code that for registration. And then normally, most of the time, we find that the final inspection is done per product for material type. For impression material, there are different types, such as wash type, putty pipe, and it's difficult to link it to the finished product. And then because to the TFDA's understanding that all the medical device companies that are ISO certified should have the final inspection reports for the finished product, and they are pretty much persistent to it. So please try to get it done from your side. Okay? Next page would be page 46. Now, we will talk about the QSD. Since all the audience are from the U.S. companies, let's focus on the U.S. mode, okay? The main three documents will be the ISO certificate, the EIR report, and the CFG. And it's very important that the company name and the address should be consistent in all the documents. Now, for the EIR report, please always provide the most current ones. And if a form FDA 483 was issued during the inspection, please always provide your corrective response to the FDA to make the report complete. And then there are times by reading the EIR report, I realized that the report, the inspection was done for the headquarters. And it mentions clearly in the report that the product is made by its division in another location. If this is the case, we have to make sure that the division where the location is listed both in the CFG and the ISO. And then we need to track down the EIR report for the division itself, because we will then clear the QSD for the division and then register the product as the division, as the manufacturer, instead of the headquarters. Okay, it's very, very important, because there are times the company would just say the division is not supposed to show on the labeling whatsoever, but as long as the regulation requires it, we have to accommodate. Okay. Now, for the QSD product scope. Now, usually on the ISO scope, the description is rather general, such as they would describe in this way, such as design, manufacture, and distribution of dental material and related surgical instruments, period. So what we do is we go through the CFG and say if the CFG contains 3 products, then we will go buy the product and go through the FDA database to find the 510K summary for each product. And then we put down the regulation number and the category, and then make a chart, as you can see on the slide. And for this example, we make 3 categories per the CFG. And then you might need to ask your notified body to make a statement to confirm the scope. And this is the MB statement that we've been talking about, okay? And a tip that I would like to share with you is that if you have a exclusive dealer in Taiwan, please try to provide a CFG with all the products, so your dealer will be able to claim the QSP scope as complete as possible. In this case, because the QSP is valid for 3 years, so within the 3-year time, whatever product you would like to register, you have a valid QSP to support the registration. And then if you have more than one dealer for a specific product, you might consider to give the CFG of the selected product to the dealer. So each dealer will only claim the category that he is representing in Taiwan, okay? Now, the next page, let's go to page 48. Now, we will talk about the QSB statement. On the left-hand side is part of the QSB form, which we are translated into English. The part of the application should be filled based by a statement provided by the company. And the information should include the company information, such as the year the company was established, total number of employees, the year the company was being certified, and any major activities you would like to let the TFD be aware of. And then if you have contract manufacturers that take part of the production process, please list them down. The contract manufacturers, such as the one that is providing the components or semi-finished products, or do the packaging for you, or do the authorization during the registration process, please list them down and provide a ISO certificate of the manufacturer with it. And then the last thing the TFDA would like to know is the document name and title and the date of revision of the company's procedure regarding the ADR and product recall. Okay? Now, next page, let's go to 49. Now, we have finished the registration of full documents and registration of Class 2 when the classification is different. And then we also finished the QSD study. Now, I would show you how the TFDA works with the Class 2 registration when all the testing data is being waived. Okay? Now, you will see on the top of the left-hand side, which is the access pass to the FDA license database. And then you click in, you will see the screen, which is the license status. The license status is not just for a device. It is also available for pharmaceutical and cosmetics. Now, since we are focused on device, what we do is, well, if you are looking for a specific product or a product approved for a specific manufacturer, all you do is key in the product name or the manufacturer's name in the appropriate box, and then click in, you will see a list of the approval status. Now, what I am going to show you is when you are looking for certain types, the approval of certain types of products. First, you go to the primary category, and then in here we highlighted F, which stands for dental, okay? We click in, and then we go to the secondary category, and then we click into the impression material, which is number 3 660, and it is identical to the regulation number. Okay, we click in, and then we will see the approval of all the impression materials in Taiwan, which contains license number, the valid date, the product names both in Chinese and English, and the applicant's name and the manufacturer. Okay.
Ellen, we only have a couple more minutes, so like 2
Okay.
Why don't we go to the next slide?
Okay, let's go to the next slide. Slide. What you see is the license detail. Okay. Well, these are the information that is publicly accessible through the FDA website. So there should be no company confidentiality is jeopardized. However, I try to block the company name and the product name as much as possible. Now, by looking at this, you will see the icons on the top, and we can click into the approval package. And then the next screen, you see the two options. One is for labeling, which only contains the package insert and the Chinese translation that we will not talk about. We will click into the package, okay? And then the next slide. The next slide will be 54. You will see the Chinese, the approved Chinese label template, and then along with the photo of the product. You can see that we pulled out everything and then take a picture of it along with the accessories, and then you can clearly see the label that shows the article name and the manufacturer date and the lot number, etc. Okay. The next slide, again, a picture of the owl box, and then we pull out everything and then take a picture again. Okay. And then next slide, slide 56. This is a approval of more than 100 items, and then you can see that all types of labels were asking, and then it's just paste on the page on the A4 size page for more than just one page. Okay, and the next slide shows the kit, and that we take a photo of it, and then we make remarks on the space just to help the reviewer to identify it, the picture to the product for registration, okay? And then the next slide is also a kit. Again, we take a picture of everything and then put down remarks on the space to help the reviewer to identify it. Okay, the next slide. You can see that more data is asking. The Outbox templates are asking, and then the next slide, you see the picture of Outbox, the picture of the barcode, and then the picture of the whole kit. And then what we do is we pull out, it's a two-layer kit. We pull out the first layer and then take a picture, and then take everything out again and take pictures again, okay? And then the next page is a pack. Again, a picture of the pack, a picture of the barcode, and then we open the pack, take a picture again, and take everything out and take a picture again. Now, the reason that I would like to show you is because all those things, taking the picture, collecting the labels, are not difficult things to do. It's just repetitive and time-consuming. And then there are times, just right before the product approval, the reviewer realized that they need more data. They would make a phone request to ask for additional labels or additional photos, and they might just need it within 3 days or the next day, which will make the company very difficult to accommodate because of the time difference, and then the fact that you have to find out whether such things they are asking for is available in the stock. You have to order it, and you have to order them and wait until it arrives to take a picture. It's really difficult to get the things done within such a short notice. However, when we are under the time stretch, whether to get the approval or to get the case closed, please try to understand and to accommodate as much as possible. And then another thing is, every time when we ask for a product photo, most of the time we will get the product image downloaded from the website, which, if you look at all the pictures that has been approved, you will know that a product image is definitely not good enough. Okay. Now,
Ellen, I think we have to stop because we have a lot of questions and answers already. So thank you, Anand, for your presentation. I'm sorry we got a little screwed up here with the web company, but we need to turn to the questions and answers now, and we have a few questions, so let me start. The first question is, can the QSD be used by multiple distributors? Can the QSD be used by multiple distributors?
Well, you have to get a letter of authorization from the company, and then a letter of agreement by the QSD holder in order to share.
Okay.
The QSD, yes.
Okay, next question. When a factory is actually located in Mexico, but it is audited by the U.S. FDA, would that be considered a U.S. facility, and can we use the simplified mode then? So
no,
when a factory is located in Mexico, but is audited by the U.S. FDA, would that be considered a U.S. facility, a faculty facility, and can that be used for the simplified mode?
Well, the funny thing is, yes, it is considered a U.S. facility. However, Mexico is not under the simplified mode. You have to go through the full documentation. The only country that can use the simplified mode is Puerto Rico, if I remember correctly, by law, okay? They haven't changed the law yet to include Mexico. Yeah.
Okay, Puerto Rico. Next question. In the presentation, you talked about Class 1 and Class 2, and we are Class 3. And it's the highest level, and you didn't talk about it in the presentation. Can you please speak about Class 3 registration? So maybe the difference with Class 3 registration to PMA registration. Can you give us a little insight into that?
Okay. If we go back to the slide, let me see, slide 27, okay? The registration of PMA, you will see the chart. Basically, all the data in black is required for Class 3. And then for PMA, you need to provide additionally the clinical and safety studies, such as clinical studies for at least 2 years, and then the published papers and post-market safety data, and just approvals by other countries, etc.
Okay. Now, with regard to using when you need the clinical trials for registration, is Taiwan accepting many foreign clinical studies, or is Taiwan beginning to ask for more local clinical studies in Taiwan?
No. Basically, for device, it's by document review, okay? And the only product that has to go through local clinical trial is the contact lens. Contact lens.
Okay,
right.
So outside of the contact lenses, foreign clinical data from the West would be acceptable.
Yeah, unless it's a like really high-tech device, and they consider it's really risky, Otherwise, no. Not that I know of.
Okay. Okay, so another question is, for a U.S. manufacturer, can the NB report be used instead of the EIR report? So for a U.S. manufacturer, can the NB report be used instead of the EIR report?
No, because the DOH signed the agreement with the FDA, not with the notified body.
Okay, great. And next question is, what's the best way to influence the TFDA? Or if your product registration is being delayed, what can a foreign medical device company do?
Well, I have to say this is a tricky question. I feel like you're asking me how to be a better person, okay? It's really tricky. Basically, as I mentioned, when we deal with the TFDA, we try to be reasonable. There is a time frame for them to work on this. So wait until the time frame is reached, and then go to make a phone call to find out where it stands. And if it really delays because, the reviewer just quit, and then they reassign the reviewers, or the office has been relocated, the computer has been shut down. I mean, that kind of situation is out of control. There's nothing we can do. We just have to be patient. I would prefer the foreign country to not to be involved in this. Basically, they don't want to have a meeting with the foreigners, okay? And even if they do have a meeting with them, the meeting is one thing. It's not going to change the result, okay? Let your counterpart to do the job for you.
A local Taiwanese person, right?
Right. You just support your counterpart as much as you could. Let them do the job for you.
Okay, next question. Does the Taiwanese government track adverse events in other countries? Does a foreign manufacturing company need to tell the Taiwanese government about adverse events in other countries?
Well, the TFDA do have people to monitor the Internet regarding this kind of information, okay? And basically, it's up to the manufacturer and the dealer to do to report to the TFDA regarding the ADR situation. And sometimes it's between the manufacturer and the dealer to decide whether this the kind of event should be reported or it's worth reported in Taiwan.
Next question. Is it required that all U.S.-made medical devices be labeled in Chinese, or is that the responsibility of the reseller in Taiwan?
Well, just before it goes out to the market, put the Chinese label down. Make sure all the things goes out with the Chinese label.
So that would be the responsibility of the distributor.
Right.
Okay. Okay, do foreign clinical evaluation reports need to be translated into Chinese for submission? Do foreign clinical evaluation reports need to be translated into Chinese for submission?
Not word by word, okay? We usually do the translation of the abstract.
Okay.
The summary. Yeah.
Okay. If the manufacturer is defined as the manufacturing facility, what is required in order to change the manufacturing facility from one country to another?
Okay, if that's the case, you need to get an QSC for the new site, and a free-source certificate and letter of authorization with a statement to explain the change in order to amend the location to another country.
Okay. Next question, do we need to have a local distributor or registration, or can we register by ourselves? So to answer that question, basically if you're a foreign company and you have a local subsidiary office in Taiwan, they can register with the TFDA. You can have your distributor register with the TFDA, or you can have an independent third party like Pacific Bridge Medical register with the TFDA. That has
well, as long as it's a local entity.
Yeah, local entity.
A local company. Yeah. You can do either through the dealer or through a third party.
Okay.
Okay.
Does software for devices need to be registered? Does software for devices need to be registered?
Yes.
Okay, the answer is yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This question says, I see that pre-approval documentation requires 6 brochures. Post-approval, if additional promotional materials are released, do they require approval by the TFDA? So again, I see that pre-approval documentation requires 6 brochures. Post-approval, after the approval, if additional promotional materials are released, do those additional promotional materials need to get TFDA approval?
Yes. Yes. Actually, now they go to change the way of doing it. They take brochure as a supportive document. They only approve the photos that we've been taking that we have shown you. The reason is sometimes they feel that the brochure contains the promotional terms, and they don't feel comfortable with it. You know what I mean?
When you mean promotional terms, what do you mean there?
Well, maybe like the intended use or the indication is too broad that they don't feel comfortable with. They might not agree with the wordings.
So are you saying for additional promotional materials after the registration, they do need to be reviewed and approved by the TFDA, or they don't?
Well, they have to be approved.
Okay.
By the TFDA.
Okay. Next question. Would you explain the use benefit of a CCC certificate again? Would you explain the use and the benefit of a CCC certificate?
Oh, that's the I think it's called the customs commercialized code.
Okay.
For import. Yes. It's the code that you key in, and then the customs realize which category it goes to.
Okay, great. Is there a way to check the approved products on the TFDA website? Is there a way to check what products are approved on the TFDA website?
Yes, on the access pass that I show you. And then what you do is, if you are looking for a certain product, just put down the product name. Or if you are looking for the products made by a certain manufacturer, put down the manufacturer's name. And it shows all the approvals that you are looking for.
Next question. Where can we obtain a list of the medical devices that no longer require registration in Taiwan?
Well, it's difficult. There is no such list. You have to go through this official inquiry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question here about how are orthopedic implants classified in Taiwan? What about products that contain human tissue?
Okay, for human tissue, the good human tissue, hold on a second, good tissue banking practice data should be provided.
Okay. And orthopedic implants, they're class 3 in Taiwan?
No, it's actually class 2. People have been talking about how risky it should be a higher risk device that people will suggest to upgrade it to class 3, but so far, such as the plating system, the artificial joints, are still class 2. However, for spinal products, I know for sure that the dynamic device is unclassified as DMA, no matter what. Yeah.
Okay, next question. Would the removal of a component from a class 2 kit that does not change the intended use of the kit or how it is operated constitute a new application, or is there some kind of partial change amendment?
Well, as long as the product code remains the same, I would suggest not to take any action.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't bother to.
Okay, next question. Is a certificate to foreign government always required? If a U.S. company sells a device for export only, it's not cleared in the United States, free sale certificate is not obtainable from the FDA. Can this device be registered in Taiwan?
Not really, because the definition of free sale is the free sale domestically and internationally. Okay, if a export certificate issued by the FDA, then the TFDA would think about the reasons why it is not approved by the FDA for domestic. Is it because it's high risk? It's not a stable device, or what? They would not accept.
Okay, so you'd have to have the product approved in the U.S. to get the CFG so you could register in Taiwan.
Right. Well, the first thing is it has to be approved for domestic sale by the country. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Do the regulations require labels and or IFUs for the product to be in traditional Chinese when sold? Do the regulations require labels to be in traditional Chinese?
Yes, so far, yes. However, in view of the close relationship between China and Taiwan, I would say in the future, the simplified Chinese might be accepted.
Okay.
Okay.
In cases of changes after the product approval, if the product site, the manufacturing process, etc., changes, do you have to send an amendment, or is a new registration the only way to go?
Change of the product site, definitely a new QSB.
Okay.
A new certificate.
Okay. And how about for if a manufacturing process changes?
Well, it depends on whether the product code has been changed.
Okay.
If not, no, don't do anything.
Okay. All right, great. We have quite a few more questions. I think we have time for one or two more. Let's see what we have here. Let's see. Quite a few questions. Try to pick out some that. One second, please. I'm just trying to go through these questions, so thank you for bearing with me. Actually, we didn't have a chance. Why don't we finish on with the following? We didn't have a chance to talk about Taiwanese culture, and we didn't have a chance to go over the slides. Can you comment on the Taiwanese culture as far as product registration, doing business in Taiwan?
I'll let Han do it, okay?
Okay.
Hold on a second. On the culture.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll wrap it up for you guys, for everybody on culture. I know everybody's probably getting hungry for lunch. So let's go to Taiwanese culture slide. Let's see what page that is. Gotta go back.
Okay, so some people can't get onto the slide, so if you could just comment, Han, that would be okay.
Sure, okay. Now, you have to understand that for many Asian countries, like China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Vietnam, are influenced by Confucianism. Now, Confucianism is not a religion. It's basically a way of interacting and self-evaluation. So it's basically literally ingrained within the society. And whether you're talking about marketing or anything, if you really want to understand the society, you have to understand certain aspects of Confucianism and its rule over the people's mentality. So if you look at the next slide, basically, we are all familiar that in America, or in the West at least, we basically value people who has charm and charisma. We have a whole educational system that raises our kids to be extroverts. Now, Confucianism in Asia actually is quite the opposite, where it values basically people with great academia skills and humility. So in Asia, they breed introverts, people who are more academically inclined. And basically, what happens with this system is that it creates a huge meritocratic system, in that people are basically valued and judged by their score on the test all throughout their life. And basically, doctors in the medical market are sort of the champion of this meritocratic system. And another Confucianism aspect within the Asian culture is that a sense of hierarchy. There is no equal terms, basically. So, for example, if you're a medical company and you're a sales personnel, you can't approach a doctor like you do in America, where you shake his hand, look him in the eye, and talk to him on equal terms. In Asia, the doctors are expected to be treated sort of above you, and you sort of have to be very humble when you're approaching them, or else you'll be seen as rude and impolite, and you'll be shut out directly. And this personally took me a while to understand. I'm still trying to understand most of it. Now, another aspect, next slide, is that the meritocracy basically teaches not just the doctors but the whole society that there are certain fixed answers for every problem and every question. And like I said, the doctors being sort of the champion, the golden boy in the system, they were raised and they were praised for knowing the answer for everything. Now, so for example, in the medical market, if you have a new product that basically overthrows the traditional view of treatment, this will take longer for the doctors, for your clients to understand the new system, or for the new indication, and so on and so forth in Asia. And so basically, a strong support by the manufacturers, or a strong product education, is very crucial in teaching these doctors and telling them that it's okay for to try out these new systems.
Okay, Han, okay. Yeah, Han, thanks very much. I'm going to get Ellen back on the phone. I have a couple other questions for her before we conclude.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, just a couple more questions before we conclude. Can product codes be added to an already approved QSD?
Yeah, you can request to add in.
So you can add product codes to an already approved QSD, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And another question: if our product is FDA approval, do we need to have the whole process, or can we submit the approval? If our product already has U.S. FDA approval and we want to get approval in Taiwan, the FDA approval will help you, right? But you still have to do the process again in Taiwan.
With the FDA approval, yeah, of course. The only thing is you should have no problem to get a sales statement from the notified body, which you consider as the EU certificate to waive the testing reports for Class 2. Right.
Okay.
Actually, the system here is in favor of American products.
Right. Taiwan is very friendly to the U.S.
Yeah. They make it a lot more easier for American products.
Okay, last question for today. Does Taiwan allow a period of transition when a company changes its name or corporate headquarters? Does Taiwan allow for a period of transition when a company changes its name or corporate headquarters?
Allow the time. Well, you just file, when all the documents are ready, you just file an amendment, which takes about 3 to 4 months, basically. And it doesn't affect the import or sell.
Well, in other words, let's say you have a company in the U.S. and then the company is applying for registration. During the registration in Taiwan, the company is sold, and there's a new company that's now in charge.
Okay, I know what you mean. Because the local company would be the Epic, right? So you cannot do anything while it is in process.
Okay, not allowed to make any change. Yeah.
No, you can't. You can't because it's out of your control. What you can do is you find out a new dealer. You can provide the documents for the new dealer to proceed the registration at the same time.
Oh, okay, with the new company name.
Right.
Okay. All right, great. Listen, thanks so much for you guys in Taiwan to be staying up so late for the presentation. You guys did a great job. We really appreciate it. Our next webcast is going to be coming up on Hong Kong. You can see our website to sign up for that. This is Ames Gross. Sorry for the technical problems we had today. We'll try to deal with that on a case-by-case basis. We appreciate you attending, and again, have a nice day. And now the webcast is over.